fishing gears in the cold depths of Argentina, scientists came face to face with a reminder of how little we know about our planet. Argentine research vessel locking onto a bus-sized jellyfish, phantom-like 200 meters down in pitch black. Our next story telling you more about this sighting and how it could be rewriting what we know about the planet.
Oceans are the last true wilderness on Earth. A crushing, silent expanse where 95% of the territory remains a total mystery. It remains largely unexplored, with over 90% of marine species yet to be discovered. It produces over 50% of the world's oxygen. Houses the longest mountain range and holds rare minerals. And 94% of Earth's wildlife resides within its depths. Beneath the sunlit waves lies a vertical empire of darkness. And it is here that researchers just encountered a nightmare of epic proportions. A phantom jellyfish has been filmed drifting through the frigid depths of the Argentine Sea. This creature is the size of a city bus, with a bell spanning over a meter and 4 billowing scarf-like arms stretching 10 meters in length. It looks more like an alien spacecraft than a biological organism. These giant arms lack stinging tentacles. Instead, they act like massive velvet drapes to ensnare prey in the lightless void. Sightings are so rare that in over a century of maritime records, the phantom has been logged fewer than 130 times. Jellyfish are ancient, brainless and highly resilient marine invertebrates that have thrived in Earth's oceans for at least 500 to 700 million years. This makes them significantly older than dinosaurs. Scientists from the Schmidt Ocean Institute documented the creature. The team also recorded 28 possible new species, including worms, corals, sea urchins and sea snails, along with large reef systems full of marine life. We know about the surface of Mars than the deep ocean floor. Vast regions remain unmapped. Countless species likely exist without names, data or protection. The deep sea regulates Earth's climate, absorbs heat and stores carbon. It supports food chains that stretch all the way to the surface. As global temperatures rise, oceans absorb excess heat. Currents shift, oxygen levels fall, acidification increases. Even creatures living far from the surface are not insulated from change. The deep sea reacts slowly, but when it does, the consequences are long-lasting and hard to reverse. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
On to Ukraine now. It has seen bloodshed and destruction for close to 4 years since Russia started that invasion. Even as the trilateral talks between the US, Ukraine and Russia have taken place, Moscow's attacks continue unabated. In the latest, at least 2 people were injured in Kiev owing to an overnight strike by Russia. Civilian infrastructure, including residential buildings and cars, incurred damage. Other parts like Sumy were also targeted. As attacks have become almost a daily affair, the public opinion on the ground, meanwhile, has shifted considerably in favor of peace, it seems. A latest survey conducted by the Kiev International Institute of Sociology threw up a rather startling picture. Let's just break this down. While 82% of Ukrainians firmly opposed any territorial concessions in May 2022, 40% are now willing to give up Donbass in exchange of security guarantees. And this has been the biggest sticking point, remember, as the Ukrainian president has consistently refused to cede this region, 90% of which is reportedly controlled by Russia's forces. Not just that, the survey also indicating considerable angst among people, with 42% backing the view that the Zelensky government is completely tainted and should not continue after the war. And these are key takeaways. The survey also coming at a point when battlefield losses for Ukraine have been mounting. And in a rare assessment, Zelensky admitted that over 55,000 of his country's troops had been killed, besides countless others considered missing. And he also disclosed that 183 attack drones were deployed by Russia. Out of a significant number were shot down. Out of that, a significant number were shot down. Meanwhile, the U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff announced that Ukraine and Russia have agreed to exchange 314 prisoners. The first such exchange in 5 months, in fact. Apart from that, there was no substantial outcome from the talks as such, but Witkoff expressed confidence that discussions between the countries will continue, with additional progress anticipated in the coming weeks. Subsequently, Zelensky confirmed that 157 Ukrainians, comprising civilians, armed forces personnel, and National Guard officials, are returning from Russia. They have been in Moscow's captivity since 2022, reportedly. Similarly, Russia's defense ministry released images of its prisoners of war boarding a bus en route to Moscow. Undeterred by these assurances, Ukraine continued its diplomatic offensive. In the latest, Ukraine's deputy prime minister accompanied over 60 foreign diplomats to see the damage inflicted on a thermal power plant in Kiev. Envoys were seen walking through the ruined facility, getting a glimpse of Russia's endeavor to knock out power and heating, even as the temperatures hover as low as minus 20 degrees Celsius. On the other side, the Polish Prime Minister began his visit to Ukraine and paid tributes to the fallen Ukrainian soldiers alongside Zelensky. The Ukrainian president thanked Poland for its support and also discussed joint defense programs and potential co-production of drones and other weapons. Zelensky underscored the need to secure reliable security guarantees for Ukraine. While the timeline for future talks remains uncertain, it remains to be seen whether Ukraine will consider ceding territory as a compromise to bring an end to that war. The former HR chief at Astronomer is stepping back into the spotlight, reportedly, after months of public scrutiny following last year's infamous Coldplay Kiss Cam scandal. She is turning the attention into a major opportunity, in fact. The 53-year-old will now be speaking at a high-profile crisis communications conference, offering insight into how she managed the fallout and reclaimed control over her narrative. In the latest, she is set to be a keynote speaker at the PR Week 2026 Crisis Communications Conference in Washington, D.C. on the 16th of April. She resigned as the chief people officer at Astronomer, remember, following that scandal, and she will be sharing her story in a 30-minute discussion session. Ticket prices for the event ranging from $750 to $875. An eye-watering sum, in a way, for a conference that promises to teach attendees how to pivot at a moment's notice in today's unpredictable world. But it's her journey to redemption that also captured a lot of attention. The incident, remember, began in July 2025 during a Coldplay concert. There, she and her then boss were caught on the stadium's kiss cam, sharing that moment. The camera zoomed in on them, exposing what was then seen by thousands of concert goers and millions watching the live broadcast. The fallout was also swift. She was then the chief people officer at Astronomer, resigned immediately after the incident, admitting she made a bad decision. And the CEO also stepped down from his position and has remained silent ever since. The scandal quickly became one of the biggest viral moments of 2025. And she became the target of intense media scrutiny. In interviews, she described the experience as wearing a scarlet letter, a label often unfairly placed on women in the public eye. While the event will also feature 12 other prominent speakers, it is her story of turning a scandal into an opportunity that has attracted a lot of attention and also the highest ticket prices, reportedly. Despite the steep cost of entry, some people have been skeptical, even joking that the ticket price exceeds the cost of attending a Coldplay concert. U.S. President Donald Trump is taking steps towards installing a statue of famed explorer Christopher Columbus near the White House. He wants a replica of the statue that had been tossed into Baltimore's harbor during his first term amid protests against institutional racism. It was one of the many statues of Columbus that were vandalized around the same time, with protesters saying the Italian explorer was responsible for the genocide and exploitation of native people in the Americas. a Maryland lobbyist and president of the Italian-American Organizations United, said his group owns the statue and agreed to loan it to the federal government for placement at or near the White House. He said the exact timing for any planned installations was unclear, adding that it may be as soon as 2 weeks. The White House declined to comment on plans for the statue, but reaffirmed Trump's affinity for Columbus. The Trump spokesperson said in the White House, Christopher Columbus is a hero and he will continue to be honored by the U.S. president. Trump endorsing a traditional view of Columbus as leader of the 1492 mission that marked the unofficial beginning of European colonization in the Americas and the development of the modern economic and political order. But in recent years, Columbus has also been recognized as a primary example of Western Europe's conquest of the New World, its resources, and its native people. Amid the US-Iran developments that we've been telling you about, the talks set to take place on Friday, let's just tell you more about where things stand right now between Israel and Iran against the backdrop of the developments. There's something interesting taking place, with business emerging to be bigger than politics, it seems. How exactly, you ask? Iranian products are reportedly finding their way to Israeli stores. According to a report in the Times of Israel, at some stores, shoppers can find goods that have continued to reach Israel despite the ban on trade. Just for context here, Israel's trading with the enemy ordinance prohibits conducting any economic or commercial activity, directly or indirectly, between Israel and enemy states, including Iran, Syria, Lebanon. And the curbs go both ways, basically. Iran has passed legislation over the years barring any trade or cooperation with Israel. But then how exactly are these goods even reaching Israeli stores then? The report says to get around the ban, importers make use of a loophole that basically allows them to buy Iranian goods from third-party markets in Europe and elsewhere and then sell them in Israel as if they had originated in the third-party country. In other words, using the third country loophole plays a role. The report also says using this loophole, merchants, restaurateurs at a Tel Aviv spice market sell authentic goods from Iran. In fact, for years, reportedly, Iranian goods entered Israel via Turkey. But since that option is not there, the goods reach Israel via a third country. But that also means a jump in prices. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.